And I don't know if it's 10 or 20, it could be anything. Okay. So just so I can get some know more about you guys, so I'm going to just plain assume that everybody has a website. So has everybody here heard or implemented search engine optimization to their websites before? Yeah, everybody? Most people? Okay. And so the very basics of search engine optimization is to make sure you have tons of good content on your site, but hopefully the 3 tricks I'm going to show you today you may have never heard of and may not have read in any search engine optimization book. Does anybody pay for, does anybody hire search engine optimization specialists to work on this side? Yeah,
I did briefly.
Okay, did briefly and then you fired them?
Yeah. Just for a few months, and then I was like, oh, I can take them now.
Okay, all right, very good, very good. Well, these 3 tricks were very cheap to implement and are highly effective, and hopefully should grow your business by a lot more.
Oh, we like to ask questions, Jim.
Yeah, just stop me whenever you want to ask a question. A little bit about me. So I run a music school. We're in Chatswood, Parramatta, and we also have a location in George Street in the city. And also run Summer Lane. It's a toy store in Dulwich Hill, and it is also obviously got online cart. Music school we started in 2003, and in 2010 my partner and I my wife and I felt like we didn't really want to work together anymore, so the music school bought her a toy store to look after, and we put a website onto that toy store. I personally enjoy reading, playing poker. I run ultra marathons. I just ran the Blue Mountains North Face 100-kilometre race.
How'd you go?
I finished. It took me 20 hours. It took me 20 and a half hours. I was aiming for under 20 hours.
Whoa.
They should. I think give it a few years, and it's only a matter of time. Someone will collapse in some way.
Just like seeing surf.
Yeah, the people die there. It's terrible. Yeah, but someone will slip and hit their head or something. Hopefully not me. I enjoy extra cooking, and I absolutely love internet marketing. I think being in business, for me, is actually more about just being able to apply internet marketing tricks, just like applying Infusionsoft makes life easier for everybody. And my son is 14 months old. He's absolutely beautiful. If any business owners thinking about putting off children, have children. Children's great. Okay, so I'm only a new father, but he's absolutely beautiful. Thank you. His name's Brody. I wanted to call him Barry.
His name's Brody, but you want to call him.
I wanted to call him Barry, and I nearly got there, but the nurses ganged up on me and said no. Mainly because he's going to be Bazza. But anyway, the next one. So the first trick I'm going to introduce will help you look like you are absolutely everywhere for your business. Sometimes, when someone searches a particular keyword, they find your website through any sort of keyword means, but this trick here will help you look like that you service a lot of people. It's a trick I learned from, I didn't really learn it, I saw someone do it, and they were one of those directory sites, which they're sort of just like, that tradie site, service seeking, just like the yellow pages or the white pages, they list a particular person in every single suburb, and somehow they were picking up a lot of online real estate, and I felt that I was wondering why they were picking up so much real estate and how they managed to do that. I asked a programmer friend, and he just said, they're using dynamic URLs. So what dynamic URLs means is that first of all, it works really well for any service business, for any business really, but for any service business, so say for example, if you're, last meeting there were a lot of financial service people here, so I wrote in financial services, but if you're a trade, you're a gym, you're into education of any sort, consulting, if you're an accountant, then this works really, really well because you're not exactly restricted by location most of the time. Or even if it's a 10, 20 kilometre radius, you're not restricted by location to provide your service. They will still come to you. If you're a doctor or whatever you are, but doctors don't use Infusionsoft. And so it uses the same rationale to how directories rank well. Because directories, Google likes the directory because it has all this content and it's built up all this data about all these businesses that they seem to always rank number 1 or 2. If you look up, say, accountant Sydney or bookkeeper Sydney, or if you're looking for a hairdresser or whatever, they always rank really, really well, those directory sites, if they're well populated. So you effectively need to change your site into a semi-directory site as well. But what you do is that you're mail merging your service keyword for all the suburbs out there and creating a page for every single suburb. So yeah, one web page for every single suburb. Yeah.
Oh, so like an actual web page.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll show you examples.
And you also mean like a Google page as well, business page.
A HTML. No, not a Google page. So say for example, I've got the example of golf lessons, right? And Infusionsoft University, they used a golf company as the example, right? So I'm going to call it Sweat Golf Academy is the name of this golf business. And sweatgolf.com.au, I haven't registered that, it's all happening. So sweatgolf.com.au is the business. It operates in Sydney and it's expanding to Melbourne, okay? And I want it to look like it's everywhere, okay? Can you press enter, please? So then what you do is that you make a list of all the suburbs you want to target. So say, for example, if we're in the North Shore of Sydney, and your Golf Sweat Academy wants to target Chatswood, Lenco, Willoughby, St Leonards, etc., etc., etc. So if you wanted to target more than just the North Shore, North, South, East, and West, you'd list out all the suburbs, right? If you want to target Melbourne as well, Richmond, Carlton, Fitzroy, whatever it is, you'd list out all those as well, okay? And so just like how you're mail merging to your database, if you were to send out the good old Microsoft Word labels, you're making a list of the potential website pages that you're creating, okay? You press enter. So then when you do that, the keyword that we're sort of using here is golf lessons, obviously. So just like your accountant, consultant, financial services, you make the directory golf lessons and then you slash the particular suburb. So that way the keyword's embedded into your web page URL, and that's already a big tick on every SEO textbook on putting it into your URL. So then you generate the Chatswood Arts Harmon programs, etc., etc. But the trick to it is that you don't actually manually write every single page. If you had 100 suburbs, it would take you months and months to create and type out every single page. You'd rather mail merge it like Word can do that with letters and how Infusionsoft can do that with newsletters, right? So you just press enter. And so obviously you create a template page. You can just do that in Microsoft Word of the content that you want on that page. The title will be Golf Lessons Lenco or Golf Lessons Chatswood being the keyword. And then you write a few paragraphs about those keywords. Put on an offer that has an opt-in that leads to Infusionsoft, obviously. And then you press enter. And I don't know the programming to it, but all you have to do is just tell the programmer to do it. And then the programmers actually know how to do it. They go, oh, that's so easy, I can just do it for you in 3 hours. It'll cost you $200. And you just give them the Excel list and you give them the page. So for my own website, so we target, these are just a list of the suburbs that we're targeting. This is mostly more on the Parramatta side, so all the western suburbs here. And that says piano lessons. That's my site map. And so then and each page, so I've also obviously targeted Neutral Bay. Each page then has an opt-in free lesson that leads to Infusionsoft, and then has paragraphs on the keywords. Okay, you press enter. And so
sorry, if you go back,
if
you click on,
good question, yeah.
If you click on, I don't know, anything,
yeah,
it's the same page.
It's the same page, but it would switch from Neutral Bay to Smithfield or Neutral Bay to Abbotsbury, whichever it is. So it's up to you how far wide you want to make the your canvas area.
But the actual, the content that is displayed.
Yeah, is just what you write, and then you just change the fields. So my one says Neutral Bay. When Neutral Bay, Neutral Bay, Neutral Bay. So you're hammering the keyword piano lessons, Neutral Bay, or golf lessons.
So these web pages, which has the content, excluding the suburb which is merged.
Yeah.
Is that repeated? There's 100 web pages with that.
Yeah.
Generic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And Google doesn't mind that, clearly.
Well, you're not offending anybody.
No,
and it's actually real.
In terms of SEO, obviously.
SEO, well, I haven't been penalised yet, please. Okay. But I don't see how you're not black hatting anything, because it is actual content. You are providing, like, I honestly swear that we have customers from Fairfield East, and we do have customers from Bonnyrigg or every single place. And then that comes to a bit of sales spiel because, again, the only sort of confusing part is when a customer calls and goes, hey, you said you were in Fairfield. And yeah, we have a lot of customers from Fairfield, that's why we put a site about it.
So when they fill out that, the email you get through says which suburb they're from?
Yeah, usually, it can tell you from which page they came from.
Right.
Yeah. And so, and it helps you. Yeah, so that's, again, more keywords that you're hitting here, apart from just trying to do certain, that's part of your keyword strategy when you're an SEO campaign, yeah.
So is this the naming and that's your Infusionsoft?
Yeah, those are the fields, yeah. Yeah, so that's, well, it's up to you which fields you want to put in. But most of the time they're not going to put the address on you the first time. Yeah.
Matter of interest, what do you use for countdown time?
I saw the countdown timer at one of those, business growth conferences, and there was a young fellow selling a software for the countdown timer. I saw it. He said he wanted $100 a month. I told my programmer how much to put the countdown timer on. He's like, $100 a month. Okay, sure. And it refreshes every time someone comes in. It'll always say 3 days, and it'll refresh. It'll always say 3 days. And the date will. It doesn't say here, but the date will automatically say what's today's date? 14th, 15th. It will automatically say the 18th or the 19th or whichever date they're coming in. Previously, I used to have one that said expires the 31st, the last day of the month. So I'd get a lot of entries of on the last week of the month. Then I sort of worked out, no, you better make it 3 days, so that way it will always make them opt in. Yeah.
Do you know if the SEO results would still be the same if you purchase the domain names? So for each suburb.
Yeah.
And you
so I'd say golf lessons auburn.com.au or something.
Yeah. Golf lessons / Bonnyrigg Heights.
Yeah. I'd say that
all of that. If you purchase all of them and you directed that when people type in that and it directed them to your main page, so you didn't have to create separate web pages. What if it directed to your existing website? Would that work the same?
Okay, I'm not an SEO specialist, but in my opinion, in my SEO knowledge, I don't find that just getting the domain name and then directing it, that's not going to rank.
Yeah, I'll actually add to that.
It reduces the rank.
It actually now goes the other way.
Oh.
You need content on that.
I learned about on Sunday. So it used to be like if I wanted to buy Infusionsoft Consultants Sydney, that would be great, but now it just looks like cheap and dishonest to redirect someone because to send then someone.
So Google will see it as you just hold.
They actually see it as a shallow
thing. It's just blank. It's just a shell.
So the best advice to stay on top of your game is just have a good website.
Or make two good websites. Don't redirect it. Put a lot of content, fresh content on it.
So in saying that,
that's a lot of work.
If you had something like this and for 2 years and you didn't put content on, wouldn't Google
That's sort of the theory that someone can outcompete you. Okay. But if no one's outcompeting you, then you are still the most relevant keyword to, say, piano lessons or whatever for that particular suburb.
No competition.
Yeah, there's no competition for that, maybe for that obscure suburb and your keyword. But once every few months, then you might get a customer from there, and you own that piece of keyword real estate. So then you can target as wide as you can, depending on what type of service you are. And if you're a dry cleaner, it doesn't mean that you travel 20 kilometers for a dry cleaner, but depending on your type of service again. So you can press enter again. And so once you implement it over time, you will rank. So rather than paying for Google AdWords, then we're ranked at number 2 for Neutral Bay. For if you search, if I typed in piano lesson Neutral Bay, we're ranking at number 2 for that particular keyword search.
That's interesting. Why Neutral Bay?
Because we're in Chatswood.
That's where you're.
Yeah.
You're in Chatswood, but.
Yeah. So people who are looking for piano lessons in Neutral Bay may hit us and call us, and we can then sales build them to come to us.
I understand that. But why did Neutral Bay get positioned first as opposed to all the other suburbs? Do you know why?
Well, I searched piano lessons Neutral Bay.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, the keyword was piano lessons Neutral Bay. Yeah.
If you did piano lessons.
That's different. Yeah, that's not going to be Neutral Bay. Yeah, but it's just so it's just long list of keywords that you're part of your strategy.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so this is helping you get a lot of keywords for not much work.
Yeah.
because otherwise you have to write like thousands of articles.
It's like a local business. It's been treated as.
Yeah. Okay, press enter. Alright, so that was the first big dynamic URLs. If you have any questions or any questions come up into your head, feel free to ask at the end about dynamic URLs. Do you have any questions now about dynamic URLs?
Sounds like we use a programmer to organise.
Just if you talk to the programmer, they probably learned that at uni in first year.
Yeah.
How to just sort of mail merge websites and have tons of domain names and like a long list of suburbs. For the non-programmer, you think you actually have to write out every single one of them, one by one. Yeah. Now the next one is try to be the best looking house in town when you are with positioning your website. Okay, just press enter. And so this one is actually more about trying to rank well for the keyword for Sydney. Okay, so say for example, if you're a gluten-free baker Sydney, or if you're a defrib Sydney, or if you're a Infusionsoft consultant Sydney, but that's not overly competitive yet, soon will be. Or if you say marketing consultant Sydney, that's going to be very competitive. One trick that I sort of worked out is that you should try to have several locations for your business. So don't just have one address. Like everybody's physical locations, or perceived to be physical. yeah. So if you're an accountant, you're in Chatswood, but you want to have customers all over Sydney, try to find an office somewhere else, right? Okay, just simple strategy, right? Have an office in middle Sydney, have an office in the eastern suburbs where there's high wealth. Also have an office in say Mossman because there's high wealth there and they don't want to go to Chatswood, right? And then try to get that address and put it on your Google local or Google business listing. That's the most important part, because then Google then recognize that you have offices all over Sydney. You press enter. And this works for services or anybody who has a client. If you pick up a client worth $1,000, then that'd be a couple of those clients every month or so, then it pays for the lease, whatever it is that you're doing. So establish several locations, whether it's in north, south, east, or west. What you do is you find a shared office or a spot that has very low rental, and then register it in Google Local as your address. So an example of that is that I'm personally scouting out the eastern suburbs to open up another music school, and the other day I logged on to Gumtree and looked up for share offices there, and I saw an office space for lease that was $60 a week. It was only like a cubicle, it was like 8 square, but it actually had a door and an office.
Really?
Yeah, so $60 a week plus GST. It was like 2x4 or something like that. And they wanted a 1-year lease. And that was a Monday morning, and I had to wait till 9 o'clock so I wouldn't be rude to call the guy. And he said that he received a deposit on Friday. So I missed out on that $60 a week lease address in Bondi Junction, which I'm pissed off now. Our George Street office is not exactly like a 20 grand, 30 grand lease or anything like that. We actually just pay by the hour to use the rooms there. We pay $15 an hour. But the guy who was renting it out for $15 an hour, I asked him, can I send some mail there? He's like, yeah, that's okay. So I I registered Google Local to be there at that George Street address. Hung around for a while to get the postcard. It takes 4 weeks now, and registered. And so when people search, say, saxophone lessons in the city, then our phone number comes up. Doesn't mean that we have to do all the instruments there. It's just that we can say that we just do one instrument there. But it looks good when people see you and that you're in other locations around Sydney. Or you can, again, phone spiel them to go to another location, which is what they're looking for. But I see them all the time, like share offices. Sometimes they're only $50 a week. Piedmont seems to be a lot of that stuff. And all over town, there's offices that you can get for a table for like $50 a week, and especially in the western suburbs where there's not a lot of commercial space, but people rent out their tables, and you don't actually have to be there. But if you pick up, a $1,000 customer, that's 20 kilometers away. You still got to go.
If you're never servicing customers from that address, why not just find a friend that lives in Bondi?
Yeah, well, yeah, you can do that as well. Yeah,
but don't you find it like? I'm actually going to completely disagree with this whole thing.
Okay.
Because I'm a big fan of owning what you are.
Yeah.
how does that sit, like when someone inquires about offices in George Street and you say, oh, actually we're up in Chatswood?
Well, we actually do have lessons there.
So you actually hold
we do actually have lessons there. We don't have the whole range of
lessons
lessons there. We don't do, say, for example, drums there.
Yeah.
But we do have lessons there. We actually have a teacher there.
You are actually.
We're not fitting too hard. Okay. But it is actually a location, just like if, say, McDonald's doesn't have drive-through at certain areas,
Okay.
Yeah. Or like there's no breakfast menu at some places.
Yep.
I think previously at the airport you couldn't order fillet fish. Anyway, that's just an example. but yeah, like if you do want to, it's up to you how you want to decorate it.
Yeah.
But that's just how you get there. And so once we registered the George Street and the Chatswood one, I then felt that our Sydney keyword ranking stood really strong, like number 2 or 3. So if you press enter again, looking up, make sure on your contact us page you have several addresses. Makes you look good again, and if you have print advertising, then you can say you have several locations. Makes you look good. If you press enter again.
5:30 p.m.
Yeah. I looked up violin Sydney, lesson Sydney, and we're at number 2 for that particular keyword search. The directory is above that.
How long did that take?
The violin lessons, like we've been on, I've been aware of SEO since about 2006. And I believe somehow violin lessons aren't as competitive as other keywords like singing lessons, drum lessons, and guitar lessons. So I've been sitting on that keyword for a while now. Since about 2007, I've been ranking really high for violin lessons Sydney. And I do believe Google knows if you're around several locations in Sydney, then you are a Sydney provider, and they will rank you well for that. And you're not deceiving customers. So physical location, try to get more offices.
So William, basically you don't utilize Google AdWords at all.
No.
You do it all.
No. So that's a different discussion altogether. But like for me, SEO is investing. Google AdWords is renting. Yeah.
So one more question. When they click on so if I go here, I Google violin lessons in and I click on your link.
Yeah.
Where do I land?
Land to my page.
Which has all the suburbs?
No. So that's a different. So if you were look with Sydney, well, you land on this page of my site, lessons violin, right? If you were to search violin lessons Lane Cove, you'd land on the violin lessons Lane Cove.html site, which is a different page to this page that has different content on it. More about Lane Cove on that page. Yeah. So that's a different keyword for a different word page for a different keyword.
So, even though we're talking about locations, you also have music instrument type by location.
Yeah, so say for every service you want to do the dynamic URL for every service that you do, not just for one service.
So how many web pages do you have on your website?
I haven't counted. So like, so it'd be like, say we do 10 instruments, say 40 suburbs per instrument would be 400 dynamic URL pages, and then you're not counting the about us to contact us and et cetera, and all that kind of stuff. But the dynamic URL section would be 400, like would be 10 by 40, if it's 40. Yeah.
But the contact details is not on those pages, dynamic.
The contact us page was the contact us page.
Why?
Yeah, it's a one contact us page. So you know how like the frames of your website, you know how like you've got your about us, who we are, what we do, and all that kind of stuff. The dynamic URLs still are inside those frames, so they can click out of that into your contact us or by now. So it's still in the same website. It's just another page. Yeah.
So using iframes to do what?
Sorry?
Using iframes to do this?
iframes. I don't even know what iframes is. I built my website. Okay, so I built my website on ASP back in 2006, which is like the best code back then. And despite what people say, I'm reluctant to change that code to WordPress because I do believe I will lose ranking if I was to change the names of my website because those names rank well. It's not ranking for other names. And
so what's the link to WordPress when you said that?
So if I was to change my site to WordPress, I believe I would lose ranking.
Oh yes, you have to start again.
Yeah, because the dot would change, and it wouldn't point to me anymore. Yeah. So despite people saying change your website to a fresher code, it's more dynamic and easy to go in and change the content yourself and that kind of stuff, then I've still said, no, I'm preserving this because the code was the code and Google knows this code. Yeah, that's all right. And the last trick I have is to look very popular in the eyes of Google. And this one's a little bit more generic. It's not that creative, but if you press enter, and that is, you need to get a lot of good reviews on your site, on the Google reviews of your local business. And I use Infusionsoft to help me generate more reviews rather than asking your rather than waiting for your customers to come and give you a review when they feel like it. If you read, personally, whenever I can't sleep, I read Eatability, those restaurant reviews, because I find it interesting to see whether people like a restaurant or not, or the restaurants that I go to.
You do this while you can't sleep?
When I can't sleep, like it's 1 AM, somehow you got insomnia. That Japanese restaurant I like in Surrey Hills, yeah.
Are these reviews on your website, or are they kind of like
I'll show you.
Okay,
yeah, so if you press enter, Google Business. Okay. So you just go past it. Yeah. So it's on your when you search Google Business, you know how there's stars there.
Yeah.
People can click in and add a review. So when you book hotels and you go to restaurants, there's always Google reviews there. Just make sure there's a lot of good Google reviews for your website as well.
But how do you have that? This is like a widget that you have to your...
That's every person who registers in Google Business, the Google Local, then when so you know that thing when you have the A? What do you do anyway? So, are you registered with Google Local? Or Google Plus page?
You can create a Google page by just going onto your Google account and then just adding
and then you link your page, and then they send you the postcard. You have to get the postcard. So Google needs to check that you're at that address.
Oh.
Yeah, do that and you'll make a lot of money. And then there's a review function in there, so your customers can give you reviews. So make sure you ask your customers to give you reviews. If you go back a bit now, and the way I did that was, you can either there's 3 ways to do it, right? You can either just ask them, right? Like call a customer and say, hey, you've been with me for a while, can you give me a Google review? And you ask 10 of them, maybe 1 or 2 of them will do it, maybe all of them will do it. Another way is to just email them and say, can you give me a review? What's worked for me is that if you offer them something that's of high value to them, but doesn't cost you a lot to produce, then in exchange for giving you a review, then you give them that thing. Now for us, like some concert photos, we take a ton of concert photos whenever we have the annual concert, and we email out saying, hey, hope you enjoyed the concert. Did you want your concert photos? Well, email us if you want your concert photo. At the same time, please give us a good review, and then we'll send you a concert photo. And not everybody does that, and some of them will say, I don't have a Google account, but can I still have my photo? But we got about 10 reviews for that, which if your competitors are not doing, you'll be fine. But if your competitors catch on to this and they get tons of reviews, then you're going to be in trouble. You're going to have to get more reviews than them. So if you're another business, if you're like free recipe or free report or free whatever, then in exchange for that, please give me a good review on Google so I can rank better. Then that might work as well. So I put it in a campaign. Often, say for example, if they've just finished buying something from you, or you think that they've had a good experience, I put a little in the sort of post-customer internal form, usually to update their data. Then there was a little box there for my team to tick to say, do you think they'll give us a review? If they do, tick this box, and they will then email them saying, hey, can you give us a review with a link to, if they click the link, it takes them to your sort of Google page to give you a review. So if you press enter, how it works with the Google reviews is that after 5 reviews, you get the stars come up.
Oh, is it?
That's how it works, yes. If you only have 1 review or 2 reviews, it'll just say you've got 1 review. And so after 5 reviews, they give you the average. So only ask your good customers, and they give you, if you get 12 good reviews, and it maxes out the stars. So you can see some hotels that are lower end might only have 3.5 stars coloured in, or 4 stars coloured in. Try the best to get 5 stars. So if you look up Saxophone Lessons Parramatta, we do have a competitor there, but the stars look good, and then you're more obliged to go click on the stars or read the reviews, and you get better value customers when you do that. One's high converting customers.
Do you have a campaign that filters them by rating before you ask for a review?
Yes. Oh, well, not in that kind of detail.
Okay.
But usually not post, but pre-purchase, then we're sort of rating them how hot they are, whether they're shopping around or.
So blow your mind now.
Yeah. Good.
Every time lessons finish, send them an email asking for how did our teachers do?
Yeah.
Either web form or link to an email, great, not great, or nay.
Yeah.
And then depending on the response, send different directions in the campaign.
Yeah. So we have.
If they've given you 5 stars on the web form questionnaire, then just send them an email saying that's awesome. You can remind clicking on this link and just saying the same thing on Google.
Yeah. So that's a good way to do it as well.
Another way you can do it is if you had a text area custom field on a web form that says, hey, tell us how you went or how we went, and give us a rating from 1 to 5.
Yeah.
And if they gave a positive thing on the thank you page, reprint what they just wrote in the box and said, hey, we take testimonials on Facebook and Google and LinkedIn. Here are the links. If you want to just copy and paste what you just wrote, because I've just given it back to you, and just go to these links and put reviews up, that would be awesome.
Or you could ask for a rating out of 10 and use gravity forms and do conditional if they rate 7, 8 or 9.
Make sure they get on Google. Well, I find that like everybody has a testimonials page, which is great, but that doesn't sort of give you good keywords. It just helps if someone visits your site and they read it and they like you. That's great. But that one there, the stars actually help you enter the site.
The thank you is the thank you page or the response to them saying 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
Here's the link to our Google, whatever thing's called. Please leave all.
So that's good Google review conversion.
When we started doing that, we just liked us on Facebook.
Yeah. That's good.
Amazingly enough, the likes go up.
Oh, that's a good one as well. How to get more likes on
ask
Facebook.
For a like and you get one.
Excellent. That's a good one. All right. Excellent. Any other questions about Google? So we've got 12 reviews at Chatswood, 11 reviews at Parramatta. I haven't really asked about the George ones. And they're separate accounts as well. So the Chatswood people got sent the Chatswood link to do the Chatswood reviews. So the next one. So again, that's far cheaper than having to pay for the ad in Google Ads. That was it. But you can find me on Facebook or you can email me if you like, or you have any other questions. I generally read about internet marketing every single week because I find that that's so far in this day and age, one of the most effective ways of generating new clients and for very low acquisition. Given that, say like if you spent time building a website 10 years ago, it cost you maybe $1,000 then, but it's been paying you for the next 10 years. Anyway, and if you know anybody who's leasing out cheap space in Bondi Junction, then make sure you give me a call.
How did you find these places? Was there like a website you went to?
No, I go to Gumtree a lot, and in Gumtree there's a real estate section, and then there's a commercial offices, and that's usually people subletting their offices, and I go there every day because that $60 a week is going to be gone if you sort of only go there once every month or something like that. I actually found my Chatswood office like that as well. Again, it was just searching on Gumtree, and I wasn't even searching for office space, but I managed to hit it, and that was just by opportunity. But yeah, I put that on save search on Gumtree. Just like the same way as I also look at the real estate business for sale section every day as well. Maybe you'd be into that stuff. Yeah.
So instead of like drinking beers on Friday nights and buying domain names like the rest of us, you look for office space.
Oh, I'm doing that as well. I'm doing that. So when you wake up, so as an ultra marathon runner, and if you have kids and you have a business, you need to wake up at 4:30 to train, to go running for an hour and a half. And so if you have something good to look forward to, like Gumtree sending you results of your saved searches, or eBay's saved searches on particular things that you're looking to buy for really cheap, then it's easier to wake up at 4:30 so that you're running at 5, and then come back at 6:30, 10, and try to be in the office at 7:30.
But ask, how far is an ultra marathon?
So an ultra marathon's anything over 42 kilometres.
Anything over 42.
Anything over 42.
What's the longest you've done?
I've done 100. I've completed 3 100 kilometres races, and the reason why I like the 100 kilometre ones is because it's the ones where you have to carry a head torch and you sort of have to go through the night. And but it's more like a really amazing journey where you will then several times throughout the race question, why are you doing this?
And what's the answer you tell yourself?
Because it's more like, I don't know, if anybody else does this kind of endurance stuff, it's when you finish the race, you feel amazing.
It's type 2 fun.
Yeah, it's type 2 fun. Like it's masochistic. So the second time I finished 100 kilometers in the Blue Mountains race, I started the race at 6:30 in the morning, and I finished the race at 6:30 the next day. So I went through the night, through the trails with a headlight, and through the dark, and at 2 a.m. at night, and your brain is going, why aren't you asleep in bed like everybody else is? And you like want to cry, and you just have to push through that. And that just seems to be really.
So you just like keep running or walking or?
You keep moving, yes. You
but
keep
like,
moving.
do you stop and like?
There are checkpoints. You can, but I've never tried the nap. But I just think that if I nap, I'm not going to get up.
So do you eat?
Yeah. So the bike is like just like the Tour de France.
So the bike's I can understand, but when you're running.
It's ultramarathon is like there's a bit of fashion going on where like you have these vests that carry drink bottles and pockets and all that kind of stuff, so you can consume liquid food.
Have you read Dean Karnazes' book?
Which one's that?
Ultramarathon Man?
No, I don't.
Because he's American, he'll get to an intersection somewhere in like Austin or nowhere, Texas, to ring someone to deliver a pizza. You'll roll up a 25-inch pizza like a burrito and eat that while you're running.
Yeah, you could do that, yeah. So there's a race in Queensland, it's called the Glasshouse Mountains, and at every checkpoint they had minestrone soup, burgers, quiche. So heaps of cool stuff, and I think that's just really interesting. But for anybody who's interested in running, some of my best business ideas have come from whilst I was on the run. And it's generated me either capital, or I'd say I'm not here today, I wouldn't be at Infusionsoft, I wouldn't have chats, but I wouldn't have my son if I didn't come up with certain ideas while I was running. So it was just like, oh yeah, let's do that, and then yeah.
I don't think the idea of having a son is terribly original.
No. It's running and then well, let's just say running helped me have the Chatswood School. The Chatswood School allowed me to go to Europe and participate in a race.
I find walking,
same idea. Exercising, walking, meditating, swimming.
Doing barrels. No.
I'm out of running, I can stop there. I still get up at 4:30 every morning, do my morning lead and get ready to bed.
Oh, there we go.
So how do you use, so what's the most you use Infusionsoft?
Okay. Well, Infusionsoft, when you say the dynamic URLs came first, right? And then also Parramatta Chatswood came first. And then when you sort of realize that during the high intake season, you're going to get like 25 leads a day. You're not going to sit there emailing everybody.
That's February, is it school?
When school starts, the warmer months.
Right.
In winter, everybody's concerned about staying warm. Or when it rains in Sydney, people get depressed. But in the warmer months, then when they enroll, you might get 25, 30 leads a day, and some of them are going to say, all right, can you send me the information, I want to come in tomorrow at 4 o'clock. You can't just sit there emailing, all right, at 4 o'clock you teach this is the address, this is the best place to park, and then attach all the files, And that's if you had 5 leads a day, that's okay, but you have 30, then you're either going to be up all night or you're going to miss a few of them. And so I managed to then come across Infusionsoft, and I just naturally, it seemed to occur to me that would then allow me to very easily communicate with these leads, build a database, and then at the same time manage them, increase conversion, and then increase the frequency of them buying. And the lead might not buy from you today, might not buy from you next month, but maybe 2 years down the track I might hand over a lot of money.
And is it email that you communicate, or do you use texting as well?
I'm aware it can do texting. I don't use texting because it sort of increases the cost of things by a little bit. Generally email, and you get creative with the emails of how you communicate with them, not just sending the newsletter. Recently this year, after going to Infusionsoft University, run several sales using the emails, and this was a trick I borrowed that from Lisa McQueen, is that you have to run the sale with the countdown. So no one else is doing this, and I think they did this at a user group anyway. So it's a sequence obviously, right? So the first email says sale, 3 days left, and then the next one says sale, so then timer, 1 day, the next email says sale, 2 days left, and then 1 day, and then the next email says 1 hour left for this sale, and then the next email, and then I always tag it like 4 days later, email, why didn't you buy, that was the next one sale. And you get a few emails from there as well. But the whole 4 days or 3 days of urgency, no one really buys, but you get most of the buys from the 1 day left and the 1 hour left email. And then
what am I getting extra in that?
Well, that's up to you. Like, you know, you're getting 20% off, or you're getting bonus 3 hours consultation, something it is. But like whatever sale is, buy one get one free, whatever it is, then that particular contact might be asleep, as in like might not have bought from you the first time they called you, but maybe this one activated them. And that's just one way of doing that. Another one, an email that worked really well for me 2 weeks ago was you just send out an email, it's ask me anything week. So it's a very simple email, just instead of a fat newsletter that has 5 items, this week you can ask me whatever you like and just hit reply and ask me. And then again, that activated a lot of dormant contacts and increase the communication, and you can start campaigning those guys as well because there's somebody to talk to you again. But that's what Infusionsoft can do. Previously we were using Salesforce, and Salesforce didn't do that. Yeah, and when I was using Salesforce, I would then extract the phone numbers and SMS blast them, and then they'd get an SMS saying, you know, call us if you want this or that once a month. That the ROI on that went down.
How long have you had your music school for?
11 years. Yeah. So had the music school before cable internet was that mainstream. Everybody remembers Unwired? But back when they were really going strong until cable internet came around, and they just went. But that was so popular. We used Unwired for such a long time. That was so absolute best technology ever back then. But back then, like in 06, Gumtree was like ranking really, really well. Like you could put your business there on Gumtree and you get a lot of phone calls before Google just said, all right, no more of Gumtree, and then just hammered them straight down because everybody was using Gumtree. Yeah. Yes, go for it.
So yeah, looks like the SEO stuff's really working for you.
Yeah,
I'm interested to know what's the percentage of that kind of cold and search traffic for new customers versus your referrals, natural growth, joint ventures.
Okay, so yeah, I think the numbers are a little bit skewed now because I've got 2 locations. Mm-hmm. 2 locations then sort of brings the volume up of the search traffic. Apart from just natural organic SEO, so lead generated, right? I do some print, okay, and then I will also pay on the other directories.
Yep.
Okay, the ones that rank well, obviously, the ones that actually make money. When you saw me with the rankings there, how I was always number 2, the number 1 directory there, I'm in a very good relationship with that guy, and I can say to him, hey, I've got this new teacher on board, but I'm a little bit short this month. Can you give me 2 months free and I'll pay you in the 3rd month? Like, yeah, no worries, I'll just turn it on for you. So that one also brings in leads that may not come through my dynamic URLs or the Google reviews and all that kind of stuff. Obviously you have referrals, and obviously you have stuff like, say, the sign on the street, and all that kind of stuff. But I roughly estimate right now because I've invested more into like Google, the stars and all that kind of stuff in Google, and Sydney's ranking well, I still think it's at least 65 to 70% on organic search. I've tried Google Ads in the past, but then I lost the data of whether they were coming in organic or not. And suddenly you're paying Google for this, I couldn't work out whether they were from natural or organic, or whether they were paid or unpaid. And when it distorts data like that, then you sort of lose the gold mine, which was the organic.
What was distorting the data?
Well, if someone calls in and says, I found you online,
right,
yeah, then you can't say,
if they call in.
Did you click on my ad or not? Yeah.
Yeah, but what if they go into some
the landing page, yeah. So that I felt just doing that whole going to a landing page, opt in, and you call them back, didn't have a very good ROI.
Okay.
Yeah, and if it was a landing page with no phone number, then there's a bounce rate to that and all that kind of stuff. I felt that for what you could invest, like if you're paying $1,000 a month or $1,000 a week on Google Ads, then I didn't feel the ROI was worthy when you can get them. If you concentrate on the SEO, then over the long run, it's sort of better. So, but yeah, it depends on how your business works and how competitive your ads are and all that kind of stuff. But for the toy store, SEO doesn't work very well. We actually have to use Google Ads for that one. So when you're selling, say, $100 kids bikes or something like that, then there's enough margin in that to put to Google Ads, and then they go to the e-commerce cart and they buy it. Whereas this one, yeah.
Facebook ads using?
I tried a little bit. I didn't. Again, I'll be investing more time into Facebook ads because as another lead generator, creating this kids magazine called Gifted Child, and I believe that I'm going to build my list.
And what parent wouldn't want to have that bike?
That's every child, isn't
it? No, only the gifted ones. Only the gifted ones. only the ones who are special. So yeah, and I put the domain name for that. And I believe by using Facebook and the tricks with looking up if they're fans of a particular group, you can then target them with that type of Facebook ad strategy. That would build my list very quickly on that on the magazine.
We've got Shine Music School Singapore. That's not you.
They copied me. There's a Shine Music School in Singapore, which I'm dead sure they copied me. There's also a Shine Music School in Johannesburg. I think they were there before me, though.
You sure they're just not your international locations?
Yes, that's right.
I can say, I'll write that on my contact list. There's also Singapore and South Africa. Truly international, yeah. But they don't use Infusionsoft. But I think they've benefited from my traffic as well. So sometimes we get an email saying, it's like a very South African name, like, I don't know, what's the South African name, like?
Anton Millefeld.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, or Gunnison or something like that. Yeah. Something really angry, like Gunnison enjoyed his lessons, not coming anymore.
I can't shoot a black person.
Yeah, so yeah. And so it's fine, like using Infusionsoft for the activating the database, that's one strategy, but the optimizing of handling your leads, Infusionsoft obviously.
Your last Facebook update was in April.
Yeah, I don't have enough. I don't pay a lot of attention to our Facebook page, which I could, but I pay more attention to the SEO.
Yeah, to pick your battles is the important thing. Is you nailed yours.
That particular online real estate, yeah.
5 things at once.
Yeah, so
focus on one thing.
yeah, and it then and you can and what happens with the SEO thing is that then you see other people copying you though. yeah, when you're that they sort of look at your website and they try to do certain things and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, just again, invest time into building your website, build and make you money, and then allows you to grow a team and use Infusionsoft and all that kind of stuff. But with Infusionsoft, yeah, so and then also the whole emailing the payment and all that kind of stuff, that's good for Infusionsoft. But
do you use the whole program of Infusionsoft? Because obviously there's different components.
I use parts of the sales part, but I don't think that's that good. I find that the Infusionsoft, the CRM, the actual CRM part, the way to display customer information is not as good as Salesforce.
No.
Yeah. So the concept of Infusionsoft was not actually a CRM. It was an emailing product that became a CRM/emailing product. Salesforce started as a CRM for salespeople, but never became an emailing product. So how you search someone and then the notes come up and all that kind of stuff, that's far inferior to Salesforce, because when you search someone, they had a lot of what they call chatter, which they could just write notes really easily on every single customer. If they called you, if they complained about something, if they liked you, they don't record. Infusionsoft doesn't record that very well.
Right.
Yeah.
So Salesforce, is that still part of Infusionsoft?
Sorry,
It's a different program.
Salesforce is not. Salesforce was the Infusionsoft of 2008, when Australia hadn't grasped cloud computing. You were still using QuickBooks and software packages for you to install the CRM, but Salesforce allows you to access that on the cloud, and you could do that kind of stuff, and then you outgrow that.
Excellent.
Any other questions? Or did you want to see that email thing, or are we out of time?
So what's that?
That campaign I wrote the other day, but